What's up, everybody? It's Jeffrey Lyles, welcoming you to another edition of Lyles Figure Files. One of the best things about the Marvel Cinematic Universe is it allows Hasbro to dip into the well of all these great characters in the Marvel comic book universe and crank out comic book accurate versions of them just because of their exposure to mainstream audiences. Along the way, there's some characters that have kind of slipped through the cracks who have been waiting a very long time to get figures based on their comic book appearances. Now, we've seen the opposite. Gore the God Butcher showed up in Thor Love and Thunder, but he got a comic book figure relatively quick, like within the same year as the MCU figure came out. But there are others who've been waiting a very, very long time, way too long in some cases. And in a lot of these instances, these characters are showing up in multiple MCU projects, which is why I decided, hey, I'm going through the MCU right now. I'm midway through season one of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm kind of trying to do it in order. I finished Iron Man 3, then went to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., then midway, or I guess the first quarter, then I dipped into Thor the Dark World, now back into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. By the way, I'd love to get Marvel Legends Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. figures, Hasbro, if you're watching. And, I'm about to get into Captain America the Winter Soldier, one of my favorite MCU movies still. So, anyway, came up with a list of 10, cheated just a little bit. I'm sure you know which ones I had to cheat on just because it made sense to include them into one ranking there. So anyway, I'm going to break down this list of 10 characters from the comic books that are showing up multiple times in most cases in the MCU and are still waiting on a comic book accurate Marvel Legends figure. Let's go on to the list. Number 10, Agatha Harkness. She's was prominently featured in WandaVision. She's getting her own TV show, which I don't know who was asking for, but we're getting it one way or the other. So we've already gotten this figure in her in her MCU form. Entertainment Earth still has her showing up. So if you missed all those great clearances, you can still get her now. But she's gotten a figure in her MCU form, that version. Her figure's fine if you just want a civilian character, but to me, who grew up years and years and years ago when the Dire Rays were invading New York City. Yes, New York City. My first exposure to Agatha was way different. And I kind of have to make this caveat because I feel like the Hasbro Marvel Legends team may go, oh, cool, we've got a great idea for an Agatha figure. I don't want this one. I don't want the Megan Thee Stallion hot girl makeover version of Agatha. That's wrong. We don't need this version. What I'm talking about, Old Maiden, house cat in hand, witchy witch, Agatha Harkness, with the full blown out Ludwig Beethoven hair going, all in works. I just want that. That's what I want. She's been an important character in the Marvel comic book universe. She mentored Scarlet Witch. She was the nanny to Franklin Richards, helped out the Fantastic Four on multiple occasions. She's right up there with Doctor Strange in terms of being one of the most important mystic characters in the comic book universe. So, because she was prominently featured in WandaVision, getting a show named after her kind of makes sense to me to get a Marvel comic book version, Marvel Legends version of Agatha Harkness. Number 9 on my list is another one that I'm kind of surprised we didn't get that treatment because I felt like this was a pretty significant major character. One thing I loved about DC Classics was when they introduced an A-level hero, maybe even in that same wave, we got one of their top tier villains to go along with them. And this guy had the benefit of showing up in a pretty prominent recent MCU film, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. And I kept waiting, like, clearly this is the time. I mean, we've got his arch rival. He's gotten several figures. It's time for the main man's villain. It's time for Atuma to show up. But so far, we haven't gotten this guy. And Atuma is not just a villain fighting Submariner. He's fought the Avengers on multiple occasions. He's got a really, really great colorful outfit. I mean, there are all kinds of different variations of this. Sometimes it's red, sometimes it's blue in there. But I love this purple and yellow combination with his blue skin. I think that pops really nicely. And he's a character who is pretty essential in terms of remaining top tier, ultra level villains. Like he leads the forces of Atlantis against the surface world. So he's a big guy who needs a figure. This MCU one that we got wasn't bad. I mean, it was a pretty solid figure in terms of, hey, here's what we got. But because they reflected kind of more of a Mayan Aztec culture, not really the Atuma who can kind of fit in as your standard version Atuma in your Marvel Legends collection. This does work pretty well for an Atlantean who just happens to be along the mix, fighting Namor, helping Namor, whichever way you want to go. It's a nice figure. If you put all those pieces together to build them, I didn't, so I just have random legs running around, and I think that was the part that came with the Hatu Zawatse. So I've got multiple legs, not so much the rest of the figure. But Atuma, way too big, way too important to not have a figure yet. So hopefully we'll get him. And here is kind of the start of what will be a continuing trend throughout this list, a Thor character. And in this case, that's Curse. Curse showed up in Thor, the Dark World, kind of in a whack manner. I don't think they really handle that character as well as he is in the comic book. But we got Curse, and that was way back in what, 2013? Yeah, that's right. So he's shown up a while ago. He's 11 years overdue for a Marvel Legends figure. And look at Curse's design. That's awesome. And you see how the MCU one is so dull. And oh, look, there's a little faint trace of red in there. No, this guy has all kinds of gaudy. Check out my reds, my oranges, my yellows. Bam. And I love this design. I mean, this is crazy. And we've seen how awesome Hasbro did with the Destroyer figure. And I think that if they just put that kind of resources into a Curse figure, maybe do a 2-pack with Thor and his armored, fully armored Walt Simonson gear, comic book accurate version, this would be an awesome 2-pack. And Curse just has a really awesome design. I mean, look at this skull, weight belt, wrestling belt in the midsection, the spikes on his shoulder pads, that helmet. I mean, this dude would look so great among your Thor villains. And he would just, I mean, because the colors pop. We don't have a lot of colorful villains on the Thor shelf in general. We got Malekith, we got Hela, we have Loki. This guy would really stand out on your shelf. We got Oleg too, so don't want to leave him out. And of course, the all gray Destroyer. But this one, he would really stand out and be an awesome character to add to the Marvel Legends line. And geez, what are we waiting on with that one? This guy looks awesome. Let's hope we won't have to wait too much longer for him. Number 7 is a character who, again, was in the early part of Phase 2. And no, geez, this guy was back in Phase 1. He's really overdue. He's got an awesome design and one that just really looked great. He actually knocks out and completes a few teams of villains in your in Marvel Legends comic book lore. Of course, I'm talking about Whiplash, Slash, Blacklash, Backlash. Mickey Rourke's character, who was all about his bud. I mean, it was a cool, interesting design, but this comic book look is just smooth, man. I mean, he's got the top knot. We got the lavender. We got the deep maroon cape, the all black bodysuit. This is a really easy figure. I mean, sometimes Hasbro kind of takes some shortcuts with a character's comic book designs. And, you know, it's because, well, this other character had so much more intricate sculpting, paintwork that we needed a cheap, easy layup character. But then they kind of botched some stuff where it's like, oh, there was an easier figure for you guys to do. Whiplash is that character. I mean, I think we've got some whip parts that we don't even need to design those all over again. But I mean, this design pops and he looks really great. Unlike Thor's villains, we have a lot of really colorful Iron Man villains. Living Laser, Blizzard, I guess you call AIM Iron Man focused villains. So we got them, Dread Knight, lots of cool colors popping on the Iron Man shelf. Whiplash would be awesome because he stands out so much because of the all black attire, the lavender gloves, the whip, of course. So he's a cool looking design. I think he'd be a lot of fun in the line. And here is what he didn't even get a Marvel Legends one. This is how long back this figure is overdue for a figure. When they were still kind of Going back and forth between Marvel Legends and Marvel Universe, we got this 3.75-inch Ivan Whiplash Banco. No bird though. So here he is in the Marvel Universe look. So that's how overdue he is. I almost feel like those whips could kind of work for his Marvel Legends comic book counterpart version. See, the whips are posable, so maybe we could recycle them with absolutely nothing else. So he's a good character and a lot of fun with that design. So love to see him get his due. I teased these guys earlier, and guys, you know exactly who I'm talking about. It is the Warriors 3. They've been in 3 Thor movies. Won't see them in any more. Thanks, Taiki. But I mean, dude, why do we not have Vandal, Volstagg, Hogan? Those guys look amazing. Their designs, they're so colorful. We've got magenta, yellow, yellow, orange, black, sky blue, green, darker green, olive green, whatever you want to, whichever way you want to go with it. These guys look awesome. And I feel like this is a box set that is just waiting and waiting and waiting to happen. And they would look really awesome. I feel like Thor's corner of the Marvel Universe, the Marvel Legends display is really lacking. Yeah, we've got a Beta Ray Bill. We've got Lady Sif. That's awesome. Still need a better version of Odin. Got a decent amount of his villains. We've got multiple versions of Thor, but we need more of his allies. Balder the Brave hasn't shown up outside of a reference on Loki season 2. That was cool. But I mean, come on. The Warriors 3 are awesome characters. They have great visuals. They would make so much sense. Throw them in a box set. We don't need to buy these guys individually. Or if you want to do a Thor focus set, we still got another Thor movie coming. Maybe we make Volstagg the Build-A-Figure and have those other guys as part of the wave. Jeez, I feel like they're way overdue. Definitely needed. They've been in 3 films, so, you know, let's get them in there, Hasbro. The speeding character who's been in multiple films, who really overdue for a figure, and there are multiple ways to go with this character, so let's go with one or the other. I'm talking, of course, about Mantis. Mantis, primarily shown in the MCU, only shown in the MCU, as a member of the Guardians of the Galaxy. So for the thumbnail picture, I decided to go with her DNA look. And this team is slowly getting built and completed from Hasbro. I love this blue and red attire with all of the unique personality traits to the costume. So you see Mantis has her little skirt piece going. Mantis was really cool in the comic book in that DNA run of Guardians. If you haven't read that, I highly recommend it. So much of the influence for James Gunn's take on the Guardians, as much as Brian Michael Bendis would love to be like, no, I was one here all along. No, it was all about Dan and Andy making things happen. Dan Abnett, Andy Lanning, making Guardians happen. So much fun. Love this look for her, but I wouldn't be upset with getting her in her Avengers attire either. Although I do think her and Swordsman would make perfect sense for continuation of the 60th anniversary Beyond Earth's Mightiest banner treatment. So this is why I went with the Guardians look for her. Helps flesh out that team a little bit more and really provides an overdue character back into the comic book realm there. And I'm sure you guys remember, she's had plenty of MCU figures. And it's not like, oh man, we haven't got any Mantis. We've gotten this one. We got the Build-A-Figure, which was one of the worst ones because she was small and it was really hard to get all those pieces because that wave was not plentiful back in the days when MCU waves were not all over the place. So this is her second attire. This is the full uniform. And again, the blue, the red really pops as a costume. And I'd love to see Mantis in her comic book look with this style. And you can see it's not totally different. I mean, clearly the skirt piece got her legs showing, different boot parts, but I mean, this is a really cool look for her. And I think that would be a great visually different character to show in our Guardians display, which has a ton of those characters. So just a quick breakdown. We've got Star-Lord, got Rocket, Groot, kind of, sort of. He actually wears that costume in the comic books. We've got Drax, we've got Gamora, we've got Adam Warlock, we've got Vance Astro, we've got Moondragon. So we're really coming along with this team. I think that's everybody. But yeah, there's still a few more members left, but we're making some good progress. Mantis would really help that team come together though. So hopefully we'll see her soon. Number 4 is a character who is really huge and major in the Marvel Comics world and in the lore. A long time Avengers villain. Like, if I'm kind of breaking them down, she's got to be in the top 10, and I would debate maybe she's top 6, just on the outskirts of top 5. But she's a major character and definitely had a key role in Infinity Gauntlet. In the MCU, they've taken a really different path with her, where she's like a fan favorite, good character everybody loves. But for the Marvel Legends comic book version, we definitely need Mantis and her all-out evil look. And Nebula, there we go. I can say the names right. Nebula, I mean, her look is different. You see the color scheme's pretty much the same. Blue skin, a little bit of magenta, blue, darker blue attire. But she is a major Avengers villain fighting Thor, Iron Man, Captain America, Vision, Cersei. We still need in this green in green and light green attire. And Spider-Man in this case, Nebula's a really great villain. And she's been around plaguing the Avengers and so many characters in the comic book realm. I'm really surprised we haven't gotten her in bigger form. Let me just show you really fast here. Just another shot of her. Why is she so important? In terms of, hey, why do we not have her in her full on look? We're still waiting. And kind of wild, kind of surprising to me. Because I really feel like this is an overdue character in terms of that whole, yeah, she's a major player in the comic book. So she's stolen the Infinity Gauntlet from Thanos in that major arc. So, that they didn't touch on that in the movies, which kind of would have complicated things because Nebula definitely a hero. But in the comic books, she's a major force and she's all about herself. She helps fracture one version of the Avengers. So she's really important. So got to see her in comic book form. So Nebula, let's get her done. And in case you've forgotten, she's had multiple MCU versions. This is her in her most recent look, the Guardians attire. We've gotten the What If version of Nebula with the blonde hair. We've gotten her in her mostly kind of Ravagers inspired look with the red. So we've seen plenty of Nebula in figure form from Hasbro. Just haven't gotten her in her comic book look yet. Number 3 on my list is a character that I probably have him slotted up a little bit too high based on his one role in the MCU, but it was a good one and really cool character. And he finishes off a team that got some major assistance with the arrival of the Baron Zemo, the original, and Arnim Zola, 2-pack. So, of course, I'm talking about Scourge, the Executioner. And the MCU look for him is pretty decent. I cannot hate on it. The look was good. Carl Urban did as good a job with the material he had to work with. I mean, we didn't get all the nuance of the character that he was for all those years in the Thor comic books, in the Avengers comic books, but we did get a pretty decent rendition of some iconic shots of the Executioner in Thor Ragnarok. And this guy is major. He completes a team with the Baron Zemo Enchantress version of the Masters of Evil. And I think we're just the Melter away in, I guess, an original Black Knight. Yeah, we are short the original Black Knight from completing Zemo's Ultra version of the Masters of Evil. So got him. And just a quick reminder of what we got. Now, this is a pretty decent stand-in for, sort of decent because he's nowhere near the massive size of the comic book version. But in a pinch, this guy, the MCU version, can hold a spot until we get that comic book look for him. But, it's got the overall look. He really needs to be a lot bigger, though. Thinking he would be one, maybe that saber-tooth body that we've just seen introduced, or maybe even a bigger one. So, yeah, he's a really cool character. Great look, and I think he would add some much needed heft to our bad guy's side. Definitely go towing to toe, toe to toe with Thor, Giant Man, and Iron Man on our Avengers side. I mean, Earth's mightiest heroes had him prominently featured too, so that tie-in also works for me too. So yeah, Scourge would be awesome to see in figure form. Now we're at that home stretch. Number two, character that's majorly important. He's so necessary. I mean, he's the arch enemy of one of the major characters in the MCU, one of the major characters in Marvel, where people long before the MCU ever came around, before Kevin Feige was like, I've got an idea to revolutionize the movie genre. I'm talking about the Incredible Hulk. So you know who I'm talking about. It's the biggest head scratcher for me because we just haven't seen him. And my number one, it might be tricky, but this one seems like the most important. He was in Incredible Hulk. He was in Captain America Civil War. He was also going to be featured, new actor playing the role. Rest in peace, William Hurt. In this new Captain America film. Talking about General Thunderbolt Ross. And this guy is major. I mean, there's so many different ways you can go with him. I think the standard general attire just makes the most sense because that way you can take any group, any figure line that has done soldiers, and just have him leading the charge, cigar in hand. I guess we may have to roll up something and make our own cigar for him. But Thunderbolt needs his figure, and our Hulk figures are just kind of hanging out in the breeze. Not a lot of Hulk enemies we've gotten so far. We've got Abomination, and we've gotten Leader. We need a lot more Hulk villains. Thunderbolt Ross is the major one, more so than Leader and Abomination. This is his guy. And yeah, I know we've gotten a Red Hulk figure before, so technically, but no. I'm talking about this specific look where the mustache is fully intact and ready to go after and bust our Hulk figure. So hopefully we get him because it's overdue. Maybe with the new Captain America movie coming, we'll finally got that whole, hey, now's the time Hasbro marketing team will be like, oh yeah, we probably should do this, shouldn't we? My number one choice is controversial because I'm not going to go, this is not offensive. I'm not the right demographic to say whether this character is offensive, but again, is another major villain and for one of the A-list heroes. So I'm talking about the Mandarin, and we've seen the Mandarin in figure form from Hasbro before several times. Most recently, the Trevor variant of him, and I guess you could say we've gotten Wenwu from Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, but you guys know what we're talking about here. It's that character that Toy Biz released a long time ago. This version of the Mandarin, we've actually gotten him in that outfit. And the big problem with that figure was it just was kind of worthless in terms of doing much with articulation. They gave him a robe, but he just wasn't able to do much. And over the years, maybe you guys have had that same issue. He just started buckling under. So there's some ways that Hasbro could work around this if it's like, hey, this is racist to go with the traditional take on this character. So here we go. Here's some options. This version from the Iron Man cartoon, which I really loved. I thought it was so much fun. Get them all green, but the important thing is the 10 rings. Go with that look. Now this is the figure version that I have, the one with the red robe, and I just figured this is cool. I mean, and then there's this one, or if you were kind of worried about some major offense, you could go with this version of him. Mandarin is a really key character for Iron Man. And I don't know if this look works better in terms of not being offensive. I don't see where it would be that offensive. Maybe they could work in the robe somehow. I mean, they've done Mandarin with just a suit. He's also had a silver scrambler whirlwind type outfit. So let me show you that one here. If that didn't work out well. Marvel Comics. There we go. Pop that up so we can show you exactly what I'm talking about here. There are different ways that they could do the Mandarin, and this character is just like I said, he's too important to leave out in terms of not getting the figure. That's the armor look that I'm talking about. You see, again, he's fighting Avengers. He's not just fighting Iron Man all the time, so even more reason to get him out there. This look, I think, is the safest one. We've seen the Lady Mandarin look for Psylocke, so maybe that works. So anyway, my biggest ones, Mandarin, Thunderbolt Ross, Scourge, the Warriors 3. All these other ones are really necessary and essential, but those are the ones that I feel are way overdue. Really need them in figure form in their comic book desires, not, oh, here's this one kind of fits in until we eventually get to them. Those are the ones that are most important because we're still getting more Marvel MCU projects. That means more characters, more villains to cut the line and go, sorry, Thunderbolt, we got to get this figure out first. So there you go. That's my list. My top 10 most wanted Marvel Legends comic book figures who've appeared way too often in the MCU, not to have gotten their comic book figure by this point in time. Let me know what you guys think. Which ones do you think are the priorities? Which ones are you like, yo, this character we've seen in here has been overdue. I need a comic book accurate Pepper Potts. Let me know in the comments. As always, thank you so much for watching. This episode of Lost Figure Files has been filed.